let's talk about date nights. I think they are completely overrated and underperform given what people expect them to do. However, there's a lot to say about this before just leaving it at that. Because for many people, if you're not spending any time together, then sure, make a regular date night. That is fertilizer for your marriage for sure. If you've got young kids and you're just constantly taking care of work responsibilities, household responsibilities, you barely get a time to really just chat with one another. And when you do, you're so exhausted that you just sit and watch Netflix and go to sleep. Then yes, of course, having a weekly date night, monthly date night, that is such an up level for your relationship and very, very worthwhile. However, if a couple is struggling, if you're in a kind of, you fight a lot, or you're disconnected without fighting and just deep in a toleration relationship, a date night only goes so far. It's more than you're doing if you're not having date nights, so then of course it's advantageous. But if your relationship is good and strong, and you make a point of having date nights together every month, every week, whatever your frequency is, that is not some magic cure. That is not the equivalent of adding salt to food and other seasonings to make it taste delicious. That is not what takes a relationship from black and white to technicolor. It can be, but it's not just date night that's making that happen. So let me be more specific. If you're not connecting because you're not really talking to one another because you don't want to, or because you just don't have time to, then spending time together for date night is a great idea. But if you want to really improve the quality of your relationship, things are good and you want them to be better, things are good most of the time, they're good in other areas of your life, and you really want to bring that empowered vitality to your relationship, then it's not just a matter of spending time together. Let me be more specific. So my husband and I have 4 children, and when we had 3, and our third was 3 years old, we started going out once a week. Before that, we had never had a regular date night because we had our first child just before I started my 4th year of medical school, my second child just before my internship. You know, we were busy. Date nights was like, that was a luxury that we could not afford. But when we had our third child, a number of years later, we were in different circumstances. We had time. We were in a position to pay a babysitter. We were in a community where we could find a babysitter we felt good about. And so that's what we did. And at first, I was so excited. It's like, oh my gosh, date night with my husband. What could be better? And we would go to the restaurant that we otherwise never went to that was just about, 10 minutes from our home. Food was good. There were big booth seats and it was fun. And sometimes I'd get dressed up. Sometimes I would just walk out of the house wearing whatever I'd been wearing all day. And as I say, at first I was really excited, but then I realized I would come home just as hungry for connection as I was when I left it, because I have some introvert qualities and some extrovert qualities, but my husband is a bona fide introvert. And so we would sit there and I would talk and I would direct conversation and share whatever I was going to share. And he would listen and often get kind of tired hearing me talk because he was working hard and worn out too. And we'd come home and I'd feel like, well, it was great we spent time together. It meant we both really we cared about the relationship. But still there was something inside that just wasn't satisfied. And I thought, well, maybe I need to talk less. But then we had kind of more quiet. And the thing is, my husband actually loves to share with me, but we hadn't up-leveled the culture of our marriage to make that something safe and appealing and rewarding for both of us. So here's what I want to really say to you. The question is, if you're going to spend time together, what is it that is going to bring you further on your shared journey? What is going to have each of you feel more seen and heard, more self-expressed, more collaborative, more curious and open-hearted and safe with one another? What is going to actually grow your relationship and how each of you feel within it? So certainly a weekly date night could do that. And if you're just exhausted and you get to go somewhere and have a nice glass of wine and good food, and maybe there's some music playing and you just get to relax with one another, that could be just the nourishment the two of you need. But maybe it's taking French lessons together, or going dancing, or taking dancing lessons together. Maybe it's making a point of just cuddling under your covers without going anywhere. In fact, once Rod, my husband, and I really caught on to what we really wanted from this time together, one of the things we would do is just peacefully take naps together. And we'd wake up connected, refreshed, and really a lot happier than when we'd go out to this restaurant I was describing with the sweet food and have the conversations we might have been having just the same if our kids were there, except maybe different topics, but the feeling was the same. So if you go out, here are some guidelines to consider. What's right for you and your partner is going to be very individual. It's going to depend on a bunch of different things, as you'll soon hear. But the first thing is ask yourself and ask your partner what your favorite dates have been. And notice what are the qualities of those dates that make them such wonderful memories. And do more of that. So if it's going out to dinner and a movie, great, go ahead and do that. If it's going on a fun adventure, go on a fun adventure. If it's doing something different each time that you like the variety, if it's sitting together somewhere pleasant in a park or somewhere in nature and reading aloud from a book you're both interested in, or playing Audible and just sitting together and having a picnic. Maybe it's going running together or to the gym and just like really getting in your body and just enjoying that together. Maybe it's certain kinds of conversations, but whatever it is, consider what are your best dates and consider what are the qualities about them, because maybe it's the particular place or activity you chose, but maybe you can draw some broad generalizations and apply it in other contexts as well. Another guideline that I strongly encourage is that you make a point of not having the conversations you would otherwise be having unless you have plenty of time for romantic connected conversations. But if your life is busy and full and having a date with your spouse is something special, then don't use that time to discuss logistics, childcare arrangements, or needs of your children. There's this interesting statistic that the average couple spends no more than 4 minutes a day discussing something other than logistics and childcare, and I'm guessing pet care as well. So break that statistic and have the conversations that you're not normally having. And in fact, if you're not really sure where to go with that, just Google card decks for conversations, because there's so many different options, some that are just about communication, some to get to know one another better, some that are more sex and intimacy related. There's a whole bunch, and whatever the two of you would enjoy is going to contribute to making things better. So, first of all, think about what dates have been really great and look for what led to them being great and see how you can recreate that going forward. Another is to make a point of not talking about the things that you would be talking about in your busy life. Make it an oasis for conversation, communication, and emotional connection. Consider whether or not you actually want to even leave home. Maybe the best date night is taking a bath together. Another thing is, what will make it feel special? Does it mean getting dressed up? What, not getting dressed up? Just be intentional, think about it. And then I want to also presence how you grow together. So I always love when people register for the Aligned and Hot Marriage program and then use it as a date night activity. When couples are basically strong and doing well, they find that doing one module or half a module, they're not that long, but you don't need to be in student mode and start at the beginning of the module and finish it. Use it as something that inspires more connection and togetherness and fun. And so maybe you just watch 5 minutes of a 12-minute video and those 5 minutes spur conversation. So go ahead. There's no rush in getting through the program. The point is to feel better with one another. And there's something about the Aligned and Hot Marriage program in terms of improving communication, improving ways to speak vulnerably. I emphasize in the Aligned and Hot Marriage, having more fun with one another and being your whole self-expressed, wonderful, curious, vulnerable, happy self, or becoming that way. Anyway, the Aligned and Hot Marriage program is an absolutely awesome date night activity. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes for the Aligned and Hot Marriage program. And as I've done before, I want to give you a coupon code. I appreciate your attention and devotion to improving your relationship through listening to the Intimate Marriage podcast. And I want you to continue that journey going through the Aligned and Hot Marriage program. If that feels like something that would add some vitality and depth to your date night activities. So if you're interested in doing that, the Aligned and Hot Marriage program typically is $399. And if you go to the checkout page and just put the coupon code podcast99, it's all capitals, PODCAST99, it'll just be $99, which honestly, if you get yourself some snacks, that's a pretty good investment for 8 or 10 date nights going through that program. The real key is being intentional and specifically being intentional about where you put your attention. So if you're just exhausted and need to just relax, then go ahead and do that. But be clear, that's the kind of date night you want. But if you're not just exhausted, then how can you bring some spontaneity, some romance, some attention, having a more meaningful conversation than you usually do, learning and growing? And actually, if you choose to go through the Aligned and Hot Marriage curriculum, you will have so many ideas about how to do what I'm talking about. So in wrapping up this conversation, I'm not against date nights, but I'm definitely not for them as a kind of cure-all that you just need to spend more time with one another, because actually what nourishes, fertilizes, and a relationship and continues, make it so that you grow and feel more fulfilled with one another in all all aspects of the relationship becoming more intimate and more alive, fueling your whole life because of how you feel in your marriage. Just going on date nights doesn't do that. But going on date nights together with the question of how can each of us show up and what can we do that is going to bring our relationship further, that's going to take us to the next level, that's going to bring more joy, laughter, and pleasure to one another. Ask yourselves that. And my guess is that sometimes you're going to go to dinner and a movie or just out to dinner. And sometimes you're going to do a whole lot more than that. And just, I don't know, take a left turn and go down a street and see where you are. If that were where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, we'd end up at a beach. Maybe you walk down a path or you look through a photo album together. Really, there are infinite possibilities. And with this episode, I really have wanted to invite you to consider what's actually going to nourish and grow your relationship. And when you spend time together, do that. And actually, something just popped into my head because I know there are a number of you couples who listen to the Intimate Marriage podcast episodes together. And that is also a really fantastic date night experience, whether it's at night or during the day. That will do that too. And any other things that genuinely interest both of you and have you open your hearts more. So enjoy. Let this invite your imagination to consider more possibilities in terms of variety and depth. And if the Aligned and Hot Marriage program calls to you, definitely click on the link in the show notes and use the coupon code podcast99.